Good evening, folks. This is Bardic DM. This is Chris, the Bardic DM, and Josh for first episode of Rambling Bards. Our review and analysis of Goodman Games X-Crawl, or in this case, Maximum X-Crawl core rulebook and setting for the Pathfinder role-playing game. You alright, Josh?
Yeah, I was just opening it up. It had like loaded up that you were streaming yet, so I got stuck on the channel you were hosting.
No problem. I think that always takes a little bit to get rolling.
Yeah, it happens.
Oh.
I've been getting Twitch alerts from Google in my email for a while now, so I got it set up. I get notifications on my my browser, so that just pops up, so I'm actually notified immediately.
Yeah, right. So, for those of you not familiar with X-Crawl, it's a setting that was originally introduced, I believe, for 2nd edition D&D. Set in an alternate universe of the real world, more specifically 1980s North America. And it has Dungeoneering in general as a, live-action TV series, basically, and game show.
Fantasy Running Man.
Don't think I've watched that film, so I can't comment.
It's a Schwarzenegger movie. No one blames you if you haven't seen his movies.
Well, apart from Terminator.
Also true.
Everyone blames you if you haven't seen Terminator. Well, at least in these circles, anyway.
Yeah, it's no different here.
And dear God, the spaniel really... I'm not sure if that's a spaniel at the wooden gate or the saw at the piping. Sorry if there's any background noise, folks. My house is currently dealing with a leak. And for once, not the type I normally put in a stir fry. Ooh, that was a bad joke.
I deal with a party in my Saturday campaign. They've overflowed the pun jar at least 3 times, even though we're only about 3 sessions in. So I can deal with much worse.
You sure you're going to be alright for Iron Kingdoms then, if you've got a Saturday game already?
No, don't worry about that. It's yours is far earlier. Mine's not until another 5 or 6 hours.
Yeah, now I just have to wait and see. Now we just have to see if we can get some halfway decent looking applicants.
Yeah, I can't really tell much right now myself.
Yeah, I'll admit I'm kind of not 100% if I'm going to run, just because of the quality of applicants and just because it's looking like it might be a dead system fairly soon, which has got me worried.
Yeah, that sucks. I was really looking forward to trying this.
Yeah, I probably will push through. It's been a bad week, so I'm starting to question the idea of running multiple games.
Well, yeah, sure. Yeah, I don't blame you, but hey, if it works, if you find good people, if not, you don't need to push yourself through it.
Yeah, okay, so we'll start with the setting, and I will say now, just as we're getting started, remember, anyone who's watching, if you're a GM and you don't like the idea of the setting, and I will say, if you've got anyone particularly politically sensitive, you can change the setting, and if you have any one of the latter description, I would definitely change the setting, because the initial setting is the North American Empire, a revamp of the Roman Empire with the Greek pantheon of Olympic gods, for some reason, and it's ruled over by Emperor Reagan. Oh, that isn't going to be a political shitstorm if you try and bring it to most D&D groups, not at all.
Well, I didn't realize, at least, yeah, that's not good. There's 3 things I never bring up at the table: the otherwise politics, religion.
Yeah, kind of difficult when, as I say, the effective nearly God Emperor is Ronald Reagan.
Mm-hmm.
It's getting a little too close to modern meme territory for comfort.
Yeah. Yeah, portraying Native Americans as the barbarians. Yeah, that doesn't really help either.
Oh, hadn't noticed that.
Yeah.
Well,
it's mentioned at least in one place, one spot. I don't remember where exactly.
I must have missed that. So yeah,
Somewhere.
might be wise to retool the setting, as it were, because that could ruffle some feathers, methinks. That and having an Olympic. That and having a Olympic set of deities is not exactly to my taste. Don't actually. I think it is more Roman, but even so, yeah, I would not necessarily want to run with the Olympic deities.
It's a bit weird. Apollo's the Greek name, but the rest are Roman.
Yeah, I was thinking because I remember seeing Apollo and thinking, hang on, that's Greek, and then, but yeah. So that might be worth looking into and just using the regular Pathfinder deities, both for familiarity and so you can separate things from the real world a bit more. Although some of the domains they've got might be useful for carrying over.
Yeah, a lot of them are really interesting. Strategy, survival.
Yeah, well, strategy is a subdomain of war in the original version, so although the fate domain could be quite useful, I might have to take that over for forging the new gods at some point.
It would be interesting.
Well, if nothing else, Aaron getting that alongside death would make sense.
Well, hopefully at least before Carbon strangles half the party.
Yeah, it's only been one session that's got to him so far, so hopefully we won't have any more like that.
Yeah. Hopefully, I tried to at least start a conversation about it before, but not much luck.
Yeah, I mean, so for changes to the setting, I would say possibly still use the real world map and possibly even real world locations, but you know, change it a bit more. Possibly take some inspiration from either Shadowrun or, to a lesser extent, maybe the Netflix film Bright. Although from what I understand, it's not that good of a film, but it might be a semi-decent starting point.
Yeah, borrow and steal liberally.
Well, that's true with pretty much everything, particularly when you're using an urban fantasy setting that's a bit more fantasy than urban. There are some interesting new classes as well. Although there is one bit of crossover in the fact that there is now a brawler both as a third party and a first party class.
You think they could find so much better? You think they'd be able to come up with such better names than just that?
Well, to be fair, the brawler in X-Crawl does predate the brawler in Pathfinder.
I didn't know this was originally a second edition thing.
I think it's second edition, yeah. I remember seeing another YouTuber do a review of it. I was gonna say he's not the most. I mean, he was an alright review, but he got very political as he went on and doesn't take criticism well. So I kind of stopped watching him.
Well, that happens to so many of them.
Yeah. He and I had a few disagreements, and I'll leave it at that, and I won't mention names because that'd just be rude.
Yeah, not an issue.
So let's see. For the classes, what have we got? Apart from the brawler we've already mentioned, and we'll go over the details later. So we have the athlete, the blaster, the brawler as mentioned, the jammer, the messenger, and the specialist. So athlete, let's have a look at the abilities he gets.
They're focused a lot around grappling and chokeholds, 30 shots, things like that.
Yeah, so a class for someone with a lot of system mastery, if only because you need to be greatly familiar with the grappling system, and may not be bad as 3.5, but it's still grappling. Yeesh.
Never goes well.
No.
I was actually in this one campaign. The GM ended up converting our 3.5 campaign to Pathfinder.
Yeah, can work.
So he converted one of the characters Dragonborn with the homebrew thing. One of the racial feats gave the Dragonborn an extra tail attack and grapple per like I think it was strength score bonus.
Oh dear. Oh, that is going to end horribly.
Pretty much soloed a creature that was at least two CRs higher than the party.
And this is why you stay away from grapple rules, and you definitely stay away from free grapple checks.
Yeah. I think it was something like a moon beast, or something along those lines.
Ugh, moon beast's not fun to deal with, but... Okay, so yeah. So not something I might actually... This might be one of the few that I would probably ban from if I was running it, just because it is so focused on grappling, and I'm not sure if I want to deal with that.
Yeah, probably just replace it, reflavor one of the Pathfinder classes, or just
maybe I was gonna say maybe take some of the abilities and like the cheap shot and stuff and make them into something for a monk or a brawler archetype.
Yeah, brawler probably would work more flavor-wise.
True.
There's jammers, wizards who only get up to 8th level spells, but get a unique blasting ability that they can build and personalize.
You mean blaster?
I thought I said blaster.
No, you said jammer. That's the I think that's the monk. I think that's the bard with a key pool.
Yeah, right. Yeah, blaster.
Yeah, about as fitting. Yeah, Spellweaver Blast. So this is probably about as close as we're going to get to a 5th edition Warlock in Pathfinder. Yeah. Huh, I found out how I'm going to integrate Warlock if I ever run in Tal'Dorei again. I am considering that for the interim campaign.
Oh boy, that would be something.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I'd go with the one that you guys originally went through, or if I'd just do the as the book written version. I mean, I'd be very tempted to do the proper version, although I would need to go back over what you guys wanted to have change.
Yeah. Well, either way, I'd be able to bring back Cortland, no problem.
Oh God. Yeah, but he wouldn't be a pure. Yeah, but the difference is that if you did it from fresh as an Arcanist, he would not be pure charisma.
Oh, I know.
Thankfully, dear God, that was broken. Let's see, they get decent spell progression. And let's see, they're proficient with all simple weapons plus one light melee weapon and martial weapon chosen at the time of the first level. So you can. That's pretty nice.
Yeah, I believe that also basically acts as their version of a wand, arcane focus.
Yeah, their chosen martial weapon is a special focus for their training, and they gain an attack bonus with the weapon equal to +1 at levels 1 to 5, +2 at levels 6 to 10, +3 at levels 11 through 15, and +4 at levels 16 to 20. They are not proficient with any type of armor or shields, as expected. Oh dear God, you could have a longsword swinging mage that actually makes sense. Spellweaver Blast has a 30-foot range and does a 5-foot burst radius and does 2d6 points of magical energy damage per level of spell burn for the Spellweaver Blast. Oh, so it's a bit more like 3.5, where you burn your spells to get the blast.
I never really got to try any of the 3.5 spellcasters.
Yeah, fair enough.
I got the Pathfinder before I really got to try go too far into 3.5.
Yeah, 3.5's Warlock was not what I would call a fun class, at least from what I was when I read over it. But then again, I never got to play it because permanent DM. I never really saw Warlock because, well, when I was playing 3.5 stuff, it was with a very new party. So when I finally got to play, so it was chiefly core rulebook classes because it just made things easier.
Oh, just what? Did you ever find someone trying to play something like a Warblade or Sword Sage?
Thankfully not, because I provided all the books, and despite having the Tome of Swords, I never provided it.
I don't blame you.
Yeah, I took one look at that and went, no.
They're not that bad as long as you're not like as long as you don't have something like a fighter in the party with them. So you gotta bring those into either and swap them out for things like fighter.
Yeah.
Or don't have them at all.
Yeah. Okay, brawler. What's the differences here? Well, quite a bit, but let's see. Combat pool, bro.
Yes, combat pool, sort of a reflavored rage.
Yeah.
Actually, that's more like the zone.
Yeah, pretty much. And now for the jammer. Basically, if you want to play a rock star in X-Crawl, this is how you do it. I mean, when you can...
I hate to see the Chuck characters that come from that.
I mean, they get street knowledge, jammer music, and combat rock at first level. And they get a key pool unlocked at 3rd level. Oh god. A bard with a key pool. Oh, that's going to be interesting. Why do I suddenly see you playing this?
Well, I did last Saturday spend about half an hour chatting with Xander or Sam from the Caldori campaign about metal music.
Yeah, I'm a rocker myself. It's just more that you tend to play, even if it's unintentional. You do tend to try, from the 2 games we've been in, you do tend to play pretty boys.
Hey, I didn't go out trying to find a pretty boy orc. It was just that was the one good image I could find.
Yeah, and you made it really difficult for me now because I don't want to throw off the thing. So now I've got to try and find not green orcs. Do you have any idea how difficult it is to find not green orcs?
You're welcome, Chris.
It's fine, really. Let's see. So, street knowledge. Yeah, basically bardic knowledge. But it's applying it just to knowledge home city and sense motive checks whilst he's home. So basically home turf. Jammer can use his jammer music ability the number of times per day equals the jammer level plus their charisma modifier plus 4. Let's see. A jammer with the... Let's see. Where was that other bit? Jammer music is based on something... At first level, with the combat rock, grants a +1 morale bonus on hit and damage and a +1 bonus on will saves against compulsion and fear effects. So because it's a morale bonus to hit and damage, it stacks with the damage aspect of Inspire Courage from a Bard. Oh, I'm now seeing an old music part. I'm now seeing a band as a party in X-Crawl and seeing it being very effective.
There's actually a feat, one of the feats further down that gives the bard a bunch of rupees.
Oh dear. So yeah. Now let's see. And they can disrespect a single foe within 30 feet that gets a -2 penalty on attack, damage rolls, skill checks, and will saves. Ouch.
Pathfinder cutting words, people. Even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, but since this works with, you could technically stack the two, I'm guessing.
That would be. I think so.
And yeah, the jammer gets a key pool. Yeah, gets a key pool, which is a combination of wushu sword fighting combined with street brawling techniques. And they get a key pool deflection bonus. The jammer. Let's see.
That'll just make the whole bard stereotype so much worse. Just so because they know they're going to be because they know they're there to piss you off, and they know you can't hit them.
Yeah, and it starts at +2 from 3rd level onwards, and goes up by 1 every 3 levels. At least it doesn't say it's stacked with ring of protection.
I hope so.
Yeah. Let's see. Jammer's martial prowess. Let's see. Devastating attack. Let's see. Basically, if they fail a save against one of his special abilities that targets somebody, he gets to deal an additional D6 of damage against them, which is just nasty.
Oh, it's horrible.
And then
you may want to switch you may want to switch Pathfinder to something like talk shows on the channel.
Oh, I thought I'd listed it as talk shows.
Nope, it's still Pathfinder.
Thank you.
Sorry for anyone who's watching, but we're doing our podcast currently.
Yeah, sorry guys. Thought it was listed as talk show. Sorry about that. Blasted things mucking me about. That should have us back to normal. Sorry about that, folks. Hope whoever is watching, if you are here for the original thing, that you're enjoying. So let's see, beyond. Oh, and at level 20, you can return from the dead 2d6 months later after a secret. So long as your fame score exceeds 50. So basically, if you get to be a big enough rock star, you become effectively immortal. At level 20. I think I just figured out Keith Moon. Let's see, messengers. Yeah, it's a divine caster again. No, it's basically an oracle. It's a spontaneous casting. It's basically an oracle with cleric domains rather than mysteries and without the curse. And it's a full 9 level caster. So it's a divine sorcerer.
Oh yeah, Chris?
Yeah.
Did you ever hear that Ed Sheeran actually made a cameo in Game of Thrones? We now found out the only way he's gonna survive it.
Yeah, true. See, I heard vague things about it, but then again, I haven't watched Game of Thrones in years.
It was only him singing with a bunch of Lannister soldiers, hopefully right before an assassin gutted them all.
Yeah, we can but hope. I was going to say, Josh and I are of the same opinion. Starks forever. I may not follow, but that's the one thing I can say. Never liked any of the other noble families. Including the Tullys. Although Catherine could have... Although Cat might have highly biased me in that case, because dear God, I cannot stand that woman.
Brendan's awesome, hosts are senile, Caitlin's a word I can't comfortably say on stream, and Brendan's an idiot.
Yeah, and then of course there's Sansa, who takes way too much after her mother.
No, definitely. Give me the Starks and the Tyrells any day.
As I say,
Tyrells are better than the Bucks.
Yeah, that's not hard. And then again, the Lannisters are also worse in the books, which says it all.
Also true.
So yeah, it's not a bad idea. And then we have the Specialist.
The obligatory rogue class.
Yeah, sneak attack, trap finding, evasion at 2nd level.
Harris got it level 2 as well.
Yeah. Let's see, and what are these special abilities?
Pretty much rogue talents.
Alright, fair enough. Although I think some of them might be better.
Yeah, who can say no to that fast movement ability?
Who can say no to improved evasion at level 2?
Also true. Same with improved uncanny dodge.
The fact that you can get these as your tier 1 special abilities, which means you can get them, which means you can go from evasion to improved evasion at the same level. Someone was not balancing these things properly. God. Oh, that would be a fun class to play, but dear God, you would break stuff. They've got new skills, obviously, like drive, because this is a universe with cars. They've got a new version of heal, which is first aid, which looks alright. I'm not sure if the checks line up at all with comparative to normal heal check, but maybe it's just an actual lore replacement.
Yeah, possibly. They've got grenade standing, which is pretty much just gesturing for the crowd.
Yeah. Which, if you're going to do the whole TV show version, you probably need.
Yeah, definitely.
Particularly as a lot of the stuff is basically set up to be a bit like the old TV show Gladiators, only with actual combat.
True. Greatly reduced knowledge is only athletics, arcane, religion, and extra crawl, but with some added ones that you get from your races.
Yeah, and then there's tactics, which, yeah, as we say. And some new feats. Not sure. We're not going to go through all of the feats, but ooh. However, there is one that I've just seen that's nasty. Born athlete. You gain athlete as an additional favoured class. That's just nasty. So with a half-elf brawler, you could have 3... So effectively, with a half-elf, you could have 3 favoured classes at once.
I know what I'm playing.
Should have seen that coming. You were going to munchkin the hell out of that one, aren't you?
Maybe make it a bit more gishy.
Oh God, you're going to be playing a brawler Magus.
Specialist brawler Magus.
Oh, I'm tempted to say. You see, part of me wants to run it just to see you do that and see whether you can make it more busted than Rosanna.
We'll see. I've currently got one particularly nasty build I've been dying to play forever if I can find a freaking Gestalt game.
Yeah.
Whisker Unchained Monk.
Yes, I think you've mentioned it before.
That, or perhaps a wizard rogue.
Yeah.
Dimensional agility focus.
Nice. Or the interior player, which allows you to use normal weapon, which allows you to use normal weapons when swallowed whole. That's pretty good. Extra cantrip as a feat. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah.
I mean, that could be good or that could be bad.
It depends on whether you probably have to rule whether they can choose it from any of the list.
This is true. And then there are fame feats, because, well, there is a fame system which we'll be going over later. And there's one for your characters, for the fame feats. If you've got a charisma of 15 or higher, you can get the Hottie feat, which gives you a +2 confidence bonus on charisma keyed skill checks when dealing with humanoids who might be sexually attracted to you. Not as good as I thought. Basically a trait in Pathfinder.
No, true, but it's part of a feat tree, ending with sex symbol.
Which, if you're going to be playing a jammer, you would need to get, just because if you're going to be playing a rocker and a lead guitarist, you kind of need that series of feats. I'm surprised they aren't part. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, it's fine. I got something else I found.
Oh. Okay. I was going to say. Well, I think I've forgotten what I was going to say. So go ahead. What were you looking at?
Look at this one. Finesse the ref. It requires either 12 ranks diplomacy or 12 ranks intimidate. Force a ref to change his call on something.
Well, that's not going to be broken at all, is it?
No, it's going to be used constantly.
Yeah. And then, of course, there's... No, it's actually a Rockstar feat. Once per dungeon level, you can make a performance skill check in a room with a live audience. Target DC equals the crowd's DC. This obviously must be a perform check that you were able to perform at that time. If your check is successful, you gain 2 temporary fame points. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah, there's one named after me.
Oh god, what's this?
Sidekick. Sidekick.
Yeah.
Not as bad as I. Sometimes I gotta shout my Batman, Chris.
Yeah. Okay, so let's have a look at the equipment then.
Okay, I've been holding this back for a bit, but honestly, I know it's supposed to be, at least since you mentioned it, it's a callback to Gaze, but the art in this book is freaking awful.
Oh yeah, I know. It is basic. Yeah, it's basically reuse from the old art from the second edition stuff, basically.
Knew it.
But the starting gold's rather impressive. 500 gold plus 50 per GP per charisma bonus modifier.
Kind of necessary considering things like sneakers cost over 5,000 gold.
Yeah, but considering the amount of stuff that's quite cheap.
True.
There are some things I don't get, like the changes to like the fact that there's now a broadsword instead of a longsword that does 2d4, and is otherwise exactly identical to a longsword.
Yeah, some people consider the 2 dice to give them higher numbers.
Yeah, higher average and all that. Well, I suppose you've got an average of 2 rather than an average of, where you got a minimum of 2 rather than a minimum of 1. So. You can also get a wand bayonet. Alright then.
Yeah, but you also risk breaking a wand and a natural one.
Yeah, I just find the idea of a wand bayonet to be sort of... I think I missed that on my first read through.
I thought... there's going to be some idiot jammer who's probably going to try and do that as like a weapon focus thing.
Oh yeah. Either that or they're going to do the sensible thing and get a 45 pistol.
At least one problem with that is firearms are illegal in the games, unless the GM rules otherwise.
Yeah. But could be. Although you might still want one anyway.
Yeah, like take a look at this 0G quiver. Keeps your arrows from falling out, but all it is a piece of foam blood on the inside of your quiver. Not 70 GP more.
Well, it's a bit like the real world market then. Junk sold for extra if you don't read into it. The armor's a bit funny, but could be useful. I love the idea that there's just literally mesh, clothing made of a micro mesh as an option for armor.
And they gotta find a reason to justify those fishnet outfits.
Yeah. Well, either that, or you wouldn't have to flavour it as fishnets. It could literally be, something that's, effectively made out of a magically created material that's equivalent to a stab proof.
True.
So you could just literally have your low rank crawlers running around in what looks like normal clothes without being too at risk of getting sued.
True. Oh, I think I found what Cragnell's uniform for the goblins are going to be: skin suits.
Oh dear. Yeah, no, we're not letting him. No, I am not letting you lot get near any rubber tree plants for him to get the idea.
There's actually an armor extra called Sexy.
This does not surprise me. This is meant to be made for TV. There's a whole bunch of alchemical weapons and things like dwarven mirror polish. Alright then. And you can get an electroshock weapon. Banned from the games, but... Why do I get the feeling there was a good reason for that?
Probably.
Oh dear God, there's actually a dungeoneering mascot. That would just be... oh... Then there's a whole section on the Olympic deities, which non-Olympic deities, which again not particularly useful for us because, again, as I say, we would if I ever run it. I'm not using them. Okay, now we're on to the new systems, starting with Mojo. Basically, it's like hero pool, hero points in Pathfinder. But let's see, points from the Mojo pool can be added to any D20 roll on a 1-to-1 basis except for saving throws. Can never be lower than 0 or higher than 12, although some feats and circumstances will increase the maximum pool size. And the main mechanic, points from the Mojo pool can only be freely given to your teammates or to you by your teammates. You can never ask for points out of the pool. Okay, starting Mojo. Roll for the team's beginning pool or at the start of every X-Crawl event. Starting Mojo is equal to 1d6 plus the char bonus of the individual with the highest charisma bonus on the team that is present and participating in the event. So again, this game really emphasises having charisma. But at least it's not as bad as the Pathfinder playtest for it, where your charisma actually decides how many magic items you can use.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, the resonance pool. Ugh. Not only are you limited in the number of... not only have they brought in attunement, but now you actually have a pool which changes whether they work for you or not. And it makes it... and it even goes to the point that you have to spend a point of resonance in order for a potion to work.
I'm reminded of this YouTube series I love. They review a lot of board games.
Yeah.
They're talking about this one horrible one called Myth. It was how it traumatized them.
Yeah.
One of the goes, don't worry, if we burn the box and the devs, I think that's going to be the end result of Pathfinder's second edition at this rate.
Nah, because I think it's being changed. I haven't looked at the errata documents just because the first print killed my interest.
Well, you know, if we're doing this podcast, we're going to have to test it at some point.
Maybe, but at the same time, I'd need to download the stuff again and redo it because obviously we need the up-to-date versions. And I'd need to go trawling through the blooming forums for God knows how long, and that just make me want to hit somebody. Because I like the Pathfinder forums for the most part. They're really helpful, but dear God, they do not take criticism of Paizo well.
Does that go well on any site?
Let's see, 3 special Mojo cases before we go on. Destiny, any roll of a natural 20 on a check involving Team Mojo is called Destiny. The player gains all the bonuses of using the Mojo, but no Mojo points are subtracted from the pool. Not bad. And 1 point of Mojo is added to the pool for achieving Destiny. Any roll of a natural 1 on a check modified by Mojo points is a choke. The player automatically fails, wastes the Mojo and used and loses 2 additional Mojo from the pool. Oof.
Oh boy, that's going to be happening to us constantly.
Yeah, last man standing. If all teammates save 1 are killed or incapacitated, the last man standing gets 3 free Mojo points he can give himself, even if they push the Mojo pool higher than its normal limit. Once the encounter is over in which the character became the last survivor, those 3 points go away if they have not been used. Oh, that could have some really epic moments at that point, couldn't it? Let's see. So Fame system measures the popularity of the player characters. Fame is measured. So let's see. How do let's see. You have permanent and temporary fame points. Permanent fame points represent your character's long-term fame. A character with a high temporary fame score may be nothing but the flavour of the month. Who briefly, players can purchase permanent fame points when they have 5 or more points of temporary fame. 1 point of permanent fame costs 5 points of temporary fame, in other words. But there are also feats that can grant it. So let's see what's. And you apparently get a fame modifier on the. A character's fame score gives them a bonus on the following skill checks. You can always add your fame bonus to all grandstanding checks. You can sometimes add your fame modifier to charisma-based skill checks outside of the games, and information seekers gain your fame modifier to their diplomacy rolls to learn information about you. Makes sense. More famous you are, easier it is to know about you. Let's see. Oh, and you can buy stuff by spending fame points.
As expected.
Yeah.
Used to get out crimes.
Yeah. Get a free taxi. Receive a free night in a hotel. Receive an invitation to an aristocratic function. To secure a 10k loan for casino credit. Oh, why do I see either you or Nashi having to do that if you're in an X-Crawl game?
Well, Eris would need to get it, would use it to get in, so I could rob it probably.
Yeah, I wasn't meaning necessarily the characters. I was more meaning you as players doing that with whichever character you had.
Fair.
Let's see. And then, of course, we've got the various divisions. Where are they covered? Because if I remember correctly, there were... divisions. Division 5, which is basically introductory X-Crawl. High school level crawl teams using padded weapons and armor and no spellcasting, which basically gives you trophies and t-shirts. So not a bad introduction to X-Crawl if you wanted to do it as sort of as a session one-off.
You get a picture, they're gonna have a bunch of hecklers waiting for them once they get out. They can come out of the mall.
Well, maybe. What you've got to remember in this setting, you know, it'd be effectively being like the high school football team.
Yeah, true, but those who use the higher divisions.
Oh yeah, the higher divisions probably would, but you know, but nobody in the school would, because these guys learn how to use weapons as part of their sport. Yeah, no. Nobody's going to be picking that fight because it'll hurt. Division 4, semi-pro, so college crawl basically. As I say, we're going to be going over potential campaigns next week, folks, but yeah, this is definitely... But I do think that despite it saying it should be for level 1 to 2, I think you could easily make a campaign out of sort of, you know, a college X-Crawl career. It'd be a weird one, but you could do it. Division 3, which is basic football, which is basic professional level, lethal weapons, spells against with actual monsters, which is supposed to be level 4 to 6. Bit of a skip, so it must be sort of level 3 is sort of the test ground or whatever. Division 2, sort of mid-level leagues of professionalism. Higher level of challenge and all that. Division 1 is the show, the goal of all serious crawlers. incredibly dangerous monsters, intricate traps, massive rewards. So effectively that's the NFL of X-Crawl. And then of course there's the Unlimited class. You are effectively playing in the X-Crawl Olympics.
Every Olympics they just have to drag out a chain to Rask.
Yeah, well, it's level 15 plus. And I remember, it's not featured in here, but I remember that, yeah, DJ Devastator. Yeah, basically, if you run it, if in the second edition version, they'll have changed it for this, but DJ Devastator was a beholder that was the dungeon jockey. So you're effectively being GM by a beholder. Yikes. And I remember one.
You won the gold medal. We'll send it to your next of kin.
Well, you don't fight DJ Devastator, but
You know there's going to be some idiot who will try.
yeah. Although, if I remember correctly, you don't want to. This guy actually managed to get one over on an entire colony of mind flayers in the original version and used them as one of his regular spots for crawls. It's a mind flayer that it's a beholder that outsmarted an entire mind flayer colony. Yeah, no, do not pick that fight. And then, of course, there's the other aspect of X-Crawl, getting sponsors and getting fans. That'd be just weird, wouldn't it?
Just a turned up version of leadership.
Well, no, because sponsors get to boss you around a bit. You know, they get to arrange appearances for you and all that, and that'd be another aspect you'd have to decide with X-Crawl. How much do you want to play outside of the game, you know, like, you know, being a celebrity?
Considering the very much lack of drugs and sex listed in this, not very much probably.
Well, you could do the drugs aspect. You just have to cook it up. You just have to come up with a system, and well, the fade to black aspect would be up to you. But I'm sure there would be a role for. I'm sure you could do something like a diplomacy or a grandstand role for groupies.
True.
Oh, they've even got rules for how much magical equipment you can bring along depending on which division you're in. Hadn't noticed that.
Me either.
So, equipment maximums. Up to 5 potions, 1 magical suit of armour or protective device such as braces of armour, 1 shield, 3 wondrous items and 2 magical rings per crawler. Spellcasters may carry up to 1 wand, 1 magical rod or staff and up to 10 spell levels worth of scrolls for their own use. And that's in Division 3. So you're not allowed magic items until you're at least level 7.
Ooh, that would drive me insane.
Well, it might be that there is, you know, maybe they're just not expecting you to be able to afford them. So maybe if you can get a sponsor who gives you one, you can have some, but you have to have less than sort of the equipment maximums for Division 3.
True.
And how would you do artifacts as well? Would it have to be some sort of Division 1 prize or something? Or some ultimate thing from a sponsor?
Just make it a jock strap so no one will notice.
Oh, and now I'm just trying to imagine what kind of artifacts corporate sponsors would give you. Oh. You see, obviously, I know there are certain ones that change their name depending on what country you're in, because I know Lynx over here is Axe in the US. You'd have to get some charisma boosting actual axe from them, wouldn't you, or something?
+5 jersey product placement.
Yeah. Let's see. So, what kind of setting would you want? So, just to ask, what kind of setting how would you change the setting, you know, apart from not having, you know, an empire run by Reagan?
Have you ever seen Idiocracy?
Yeah, I don't think a theocracy in place of the US would go down any better with any tables that would actually be concerned by an empire run by Reagan.
Yeah, true. Maybe it's some like cyberpunk style thing where just product placement and everything is just paying so much of the economy they're pretty much in control.
So basically, do convert the setting to Shadowrun.
It would work. It would fit well.
Oh, Shadowrun X-Crawl hybrid. Yeah, I can see that working. Oh, and in one of the later bits, they've actually got different types of contracts you can get caught up in. And there is actually a lifetime contract. Why do I get the feeling devils are involved in that?
It has to be at some point.
And oh, they've actually got rules on what you can get from sponsorship. Huh, must have missed that. You can get you can get weapons and magical equipment, armor, weapons, even magical equipment. But you can't. But the sponsor can't simply hand magic items over. Apparently, rather the items are loaded into player's next dungeon. So you actually get to. So the sponsors give you an array of magic items, and you get to pick them depending on when you're going into the dungeon.
Yeah, I can't see that any bad way when they have someone they're trying to drop.
Yeah, and you can even get signature equipment, which means you automatically get to take that into combat because it's part of your sponsorship thing. Oh, this could get this could get fun. Oh, and they've actually got a system for and they've even got an optional system for income based on your fame score. Oh, being on a fame score of 1 to 10 is not good. You're only earning 1,000 gold a year. Yeah,
that's why they keep all the former child actors.
Yeah. Or all the failed out college crawlers. Oh, you could have this is such a fun setting concept. I can definitely see myself running this at some point.
It's just the first most important part of the interview process is going to be see if they can take a joke.
What if I was running a campaign with this? Oh God, yeah. To be fair, if you're applying for an X-Crawl game, you'd kind of have to hope. Huh. They've even got something called a walk-on roll. Oh no, that's for me. I thought that was something for your entrance. No, it's just literally you having potentially, if you've got a good enough fan, getting to actually appear in a movie. It's making one of my campaign ideas more and more likely. And I know you said you'd hate it, but we'll save that for next time because it's pretty much time we were signing off, folks. As it's midnight where I am, and it's, well, getting kind of late. We might be starting a bit earlier next week, depending on what's going on, just to make it a bit easier on my end.
That won't be a problem, man.
But if we are, well, I'll make sure to let you know in advance. Well, take care, folks, and we will see you next week. Hope you had a good time.